Hi, boys and girls, and welcome to today's reading lesson. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to read our I can statement. So please read it with me. This is what we're learning today. I can describe the characters, setting, and events. So this is what we did yesterday. We're going to review it today. Before we review it, we're going to go over our sight words, and I'm going to flash a sight word to you. Then we are going to trace it in the air and say it out loud. So I'd like you to say it, trace it, and then say it. Ready? Part, we're going to trace P-A-R-T, part. All right, next one. Take, T-A-K-E, take. What about this one? Y, W-H-Y-Y. Night, N-I-G-H-T, night. Make sure you're doing this with me. Where, W-H-E-R-E, where. All right, we're going to review it one more time. I'm going to show you the card, and you tell me what word it is. All right, what's this one? Part, very good. What about this one? Starts with a talking test. Take, good. Where, great. What about this? Night, awesome. And why, very good. We're going to review it one more time, then move on to our reading lesson. It's in a different order. Let's see how quickly we can do it. Ready? Night, great. Why, great. Take, awesome. Part, great. And where, awesome job, boys and girls. So let's go ahead and review our concept that we're learning. So remember, our setting is where the story takes place. I can also talk about what time the story takes place. Is it morning, afternoon, night? Where is it? Is it in a house, a boat, a store, a park? Where does the story take place? Environment, what's it like? Is it hot, dark, rainy? Is it windy? And then remember our events. That's remember our retelling hand, our beginning, middle, end. You can also talk about your events by using these words right here. First, what happens? That would be at the beginning of the story. Next and then would be at the middle of the story. Next and then finally, that would be the end of the story. So there are many different words to use to talk about the beginning, middle, and end of the story. So remember, those are our setting and events. We're also learning about our characters and our character traits. Some character traits are outside traits, things that you can see. Do you like my eyeballs here? You can see these outside traits. So that could be your hair color, your eye color, your height, what your clothes look like, or maybe what your face looks like. Then we also have inside traits. Those are inside. Those are maybe your thoughts, your words, your feelings, your actions. Those are personality traits. So people can't see those necessarily from the outside. And we can find that out in books based on what we learn on what the character does, thinks, and feels. So we've been talking about Molly Lou Mellon, and we have some words here that describe her. So we're going to come back to these words. I'm going to keep this chart up for us. We're going to come back to those and describe her. So we're going to read our story again and try to think, what are some words that are some inside traits that describe Molly Lou Mellon? Because we're learning, right, how to describe the characters, setting, and events. So we're going to describe our character. All right, let's go ahead and start reading. Molly Lou Mellon stood taller than her dog and was the shortest girl in the first grade. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, walk proudly as proudly as you can, and the world will look up to you. Notice her bed has a ladder. Sometimes the second time you read a story, you notice new things. It's good to read a story again, and maybe you pick up on different things that you didn't before. Because she's so small, she has to use the ladder to get up on her bed. So she did. So she's very proud of herself. That's something that's inside. Molly Lou Mellon had buck teeth that stuck out so far that she could stack pennies on them. Buck teeth. Is that a outside trait or an inside trait? I'd like you to tell me. That's right. That's an outside trait. That's what we see. We would see her big teeth. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, smile big and the world will smile right alongside you. So she did. We can also notice some outside traits just from this picture. What color are her eyes? That's right, they're blue. What about her hair? Yeah, that's right, it's black. Or what about her dress? What does her dress look like? It's green. Very good. Molly Lou Melon had a voice that sounded like a bullfrog being squeezed by a boa constrictor. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, sing out clear and strong, and the world will cry tears of joy. So she did. Does she seem very shy or confident to you? I think she's very confident too. Molly Lou Melon often was fumble-fingered. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, remember, believe in yourself and the world will believe in you too. So this tells me, what outside trait does that show you? And I'll tell you what I thought of. We talked about this briefly last time. Yeah, I think that this tells me that she's very clumsy, that sometimes she drops things, isn't super careful when she's holding things. So she did. Then Molly Lou Melon moved to a new town. She said goodbye to her grandma and all of her friends. Have you ever moved to a new town before like that? That's really scary when you do. I've moved to a new town and a new school, and I remember being really scared, but it ended up being really good. And start in a new school. On the first day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Shrimpo in gym class. Then the game started. When the game started, Molly Lou Melon caught the football, ran under the legs of Ronald Durkin, and scored a touchdown. All of the children thought, wow, she's good. And Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. So I'd like you to look at this page. What outside trait, her actions, what does that show you? What outside trait could you use to describe her on this page? Yeah, maybe that she maybe that she has really little legs that run really fast. What about an inside trait on this page? What about an inside trait that you might not be able to tell from just the outside by just looking at her? Yeah, maybe that she's really athletic. Very good. On the second day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Bucky Tooth Beaver. Molly Lou Melon took out her pennies, stacked 10 high on her teeth, and smiled as big as day. All the children smiled with glee, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the third day of school, Ronald Durkin said, you sound like a sick duck, honk, honk. Molly Lou Melon sang out a quack so clear and strong that made Ronald Durkin somersault backwards. He hit his head and had to go to the nurse. All the children cried with joy to be free of Ronald Durkin for the rest of the afternoon, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. What do you think is an inside trait about Ronald Durkin? What is he like? Based on what he does, thinks, and feels. What is Ronald Durkin like inside? I'd like you to think of one trait. Yeah, I think that he's kind of rude, a little bit rude and mean to other children because he's been saying really rude things to Molly Lou Melon. On the fourth day of school, Ronald Durkin said that she'd made a snowflake all wrong, but Molly Lou Melon opened up her paper and revealed the most beautiful snowflake of all. All of the children oohed and awed, even Ronald. On the fifth day of school, Ronald Durkin brought Molly Lou Melon a stacking penny for her tooth and smiled at her. I wonder if Ronald Durkin's inside traits are changing at all. That night, Molly Lou Melon took out a pencil and paper and wrote a letter to her grandma. Dear Grandma, I wanted to tell you that everything you told me was exactly right. Love, Molly Lou Melon. What a great book. I love that book. That teaches us that we need to celebrate our differences and the things that make us unique, just like Molly Lou Melon. So we talked about some outside traits and some inside traits of Molly Lou Melon. And we went over these in our last lesson. These are some inside traits of Molly Lou Mellon that we talked about. What are some words that we could use to describe her? We said she's confident, athletic. She is herself, so she's not afraid to be herself. She's very proud of herself. She's joyful. She's nervous sometimes, especially starting school. She's creative, so she likes to make new things and is very creative, and she's very unique. So boys and girls, I'd like you to go ahead and pull out your drawing that we did together from yesterday, and we're going to write a few things that describe her. So we're going to write her name first. We're going to write Molly Lou Mellon. So feel free to pause the video if you need to and come right back to it. We're going to write Molly Lou Mellon. And we're going to write some words that describe her. So remember, our I can statement says that we can describe character, setting, and events, and we're doing characters right now. We drew our picture yesterday. Right next to that picture, I want you to write her name, and we're going to write 4 words together. So what is one way that you would describe Molly Lou Mellon? I'd like you to go ahead and write that inside, her inside trait, one of her inside traits, right next to that picture, and then I'll show you what I thought of. I'm going to say she is unique. So that means she's very different and special, just like the book we read at the beginning of the year where it talked about you celebrate your differences. Another one I thought of is that she is very joyful, just like we talked about on our anchor chart, joyful. She's very happy all the time. She's very joyful. All right, now I'd like you to think of your next one on your own. Go ahead and write it down. What's another way you could describe Molly Lou Mellon? Her inside trait. We drew her outside here. We need inside over here. She's very creative. That's what I thought of. You might have thought of something else. Creative. That means when she's doing art, she uses her imagination. She likes to think of her own ideas. She's very creative. And my last and final inside trait that I thought of was she is athletic. Yeah, her inside trait. So this is something that you can't just see by looking at her. She is athletic. So we have 4 traits. I want you to make sure you have at least 4 traits written on your paper as well. Well, I am so proud of you, boys and girls. You have done a great job this week, and I hope you continue to work on describing your character, setting, and events and stories. You could be working on this at home in your reading at home at least 10 minutes a night. Remember, that's our homework. So you could work on describing your character, setting, and events when you're at home. All right, boys and girls, I hope you have a great weekend and rest up. Bye.